I'll probably end up putting this on YouTube because I'm running out of ideas for like quick content or have content prepped for the future that's not video game related. But I did want to talk to you guys and girls about the hiring process for firefighting and what it means, because we're currently going through our annual hiring process. We usually do one every year, sometimes two, usually just one. And the process is relatively similar for every department because it's standardized. And what you have to do is take a written entrance exam that does a lot of comprehension. There's actually books you can study to prep yourself. It's like dividing and multiplying fractions. They give you a roadmap and they say you start here, you go west 2 blocks, north 1 block, take a left at your next available left, stuff like that. It's like, where do you end up? Then those ones have like a whole bunch of gears all kind of lined up and says this one's going, counterclockwise. What way will this one be spinning then? The test, I didn't think it was too hard. I got like mid 90s on it, but it usually eliminates half of the applicants. About a quarter to half of them get eliminated because they don't prepare and it's stuff you haven't seen since high school. After that, we had our 3-mile pack test, which I guess they're replacing with a 1.5-mile run, and that I agree with. 3-mile pack test is you wear a 50-pound vest and you have to walk, not jog, walk 3 miles in 45 minutes and 45 seconds or less. And it's not too difficult. I think you should at least be at that level. Or that level if you're going to try and be a firefighter. It definitely works the calves, and not everybody knows the walking pace to do a 15-minute mile. And then you have our CPAT, the Candidate Physical Ability Test. That is actually difficult because you have, I forget the exact time, I think it's 10 minutes to finish it in. And you're going through a whole firefighting scenario. You start off, you wear a 50-pound vest the whole time, except for the first bit. For the first 3.5 minutes, you're on a Stairmaster going at 5 for 30 seconds and then a rate of 6 for the rest of the 3 minutes. And you have extra 25 pounds on you. So a 75-pound vest on a Stairmaster for 3.5 minutes to gas your legs. And after that, you're not allowed to jog at all again, except for when you get off of it. And there's a guy next to you with a sheet of paper literally yelling the instructions like, next you're going to do this, keep walking and go. And like they're yelling at you, it's echoey in there. You grab this hose line, you drag it around a corner. I forget the exact feet. It's like 100 feet total. Then get down on one knee, pull it. It involves like throwing a ladder, raising it, bringing down a ladder, crawling through a maze that's blacked out. That you have to actually crawl over and under stuff. And like, I ended up hitting my head and like, it goes from being able to be on your hands and knees to lower and lower that you're just kind of army crawling at the end. Dragging a 185-pound dummy long and around a barrel, getting a sledgehammer and hitting a sensor until it goes off, carrying 2 saws or 2 chainsaws. Very, very kind of rigorous exam. That eliminates a lot of people. And after you get through all that, you have the oral interview. And I don't know how it is for other departments, but mine was, you walk in a room, I'm wearing the best suit I've ever worn in my life. Everybody was like 30 minutes early, which is, what you want to see. But we weren't allowed to have names. I was candidate 88. I will never forget that. And that was so... I think it was so like you couldn't have biased or names or be like, I've heard the interviewer wouldn't look at that and be like, I've heard that name before, I don't like them. And so you go in and there is a chief, a captain, and somebody working for the city, and all 3 of them are sitting behind a desk. You walk in, shake all of their hands, thank them for their time. The hard part for me was not introducing myself by my name, just shaking their hands, thanking them for their time. And then it's the 4 of you alone in a room, and you're sitting in a chair against the back wall, and they're against the opposite wall. And you're just like, and they ask you some of the craziest questions that I guess you could be asked. And I need to find out exactly how they grade it or what they look for to rate it. But I just want to give you some examples of some of the questions I got and how I'm so glad that I paid for like apps on the phone that had practice questions, legit practice questions. I read books, I Googled, I did everything I could just to prep for this interview. And let's see, one of the questions I remember, I'll start with an easy one that I got was, your lieutenant and the crew are going shopping. They tell you to wait by the truck. While you're waiting there, you see a house right across the street. There's a lot of smoke coming from it. What do you do? You're waiting at the truck and you see a house across the street. There's a lot of smoke coming from it. You rate how I answered, and evidently it worked out, was I said I would radio my lieutenant and inform him of what I'm seeing, but I would still follow my orders and wait by the truck until given another command. Another one of the questions I got was, and this one was like constantly harped on us during the fire academy itself, was your captain gives you an order. While walking to fulfill the order, your chief stops you and gives you a different order. What do you do? Mind you, the hierarchy in firefighting is firefighter, driver, lieutenant, captain, chief. So chief is higher ranking than the captain who gave you the order. What do you do? So the actual, how I answered this is you advise the chief that you've been given a different set of orders by the captain, and then ask him for advice on what to do since he is of the higher rank. Usually the chief will, because I've had situations like this actually happen. If that happens, the chief will say like, oh, never mind, keep doing what they told you to do. Or they'll say, hey, I need you to do this. I'll let the captain know I changed what you're doing. So it is the chain of command thing. The chief can override the order you were given, but advise them that you were given a separate set of orders. Yeah, exactly, Matt. Now, here's where questions kind of went interesting. And mind you, how they asked the questions were one guy asked a question reading it from paper, then they all just stared at you and waited. And then after I answered, they'd look down right, and then the next guy would ask a question. It was 9 questions total. 9 or 10 questions. It might have been 10 questions. I don't remember all of them, but this one sticks out, and you'll have a good idea why. It said, you and your best friend are walking downtown when you see a homeless black man walk out of a gay nightclub, and he collapses on the sidewalk in front of you. What do you do? It is very intimidating, Mrs. Olguin. It is extremely intimidating. But yeah, a homeless black man walks out of a gay nightclub and collapses right in front of you and your best friend. What do you do? Call 911 and administer what aid you can. There's one thing that you need to do first, though. So in EMS, the first thing we're taught, and it's the thing you have to do before every single scene, period, safety. Is it safe for me to approach this scene? Is it safe for me to administer aid to this individual? What? Yes, you can't help anybody if you're dead. So, and you don't want to be another patient yourself. So that's how I answered that one. I said, first thing I would do is check and make sure that it was safe to approach the individual. Are they being attacked? Is there a knife sticking out of them? Did we hear a gunshot prior? Something like that. If it is safe to approach, I tell my best friend that I'm walking with to call 911 and explain what happens. And I forget the exact term that it's called, or the expression for it, but it's one of those that in an entire crowd of people, everyone's going to assume somebody else is going to call 911. Bystander effect. Thank you so much. It's the bystander effect. So in this case, I would tell my best friend, you call 911. And this is true. If you guys ever find yourself in a situation like this and there's a bunch of people, point somebody out. Tell them, you, friend, buddy, lady, call 911. And so advise my best friend, call 911 and go up and see what kind of aid I can administer to the man that fell on the ground. And yeah, there you go. Answered perfectly. There was another one. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, but it had to do with like you're hiking and you find somebody with a broken leg. What do you do? And it was more or less the same thing. Make sure it's safe. Render what aid you can. If you get reception, call 911. Sounds good, Ms. Holguin. Bystander effect is very much real. But yeah, that's the oral interview. And it's stressful because you don't know how you did. And you won't know for a while. And so when I was done, they asked me, is there anything I would like to add? I had already rehearsed the short speech I was going to give that I emphasized, I believe in the core values of integrity, respect. Basically, I looked up the fire department's 6 core values: integrity, fairness, trust, leadership, professionalism, respect. And I cited those back. By the way, I might be the only firefighter in my department that still remembers those. I memorized them for the academy and they are still there. But I cited how those are very important values to me, and I thanked the men that were in there for their time, and I got up and I shook all of their hands. Good firm handshake, eye contact, nice smile without coming off as arrogant. I left and then I sat in my car and I started shaking. I shook like crazy. I was like, oh my God, that happened. And I was informed that like, hey, it might take, like they might start calling people in a couple weeks. And my hiring process, they hired 2 classes. So they called my class. I made it in the first wave and I got a call about a week and a half later. And for that like week and a half, every day I just felt sick. I was like, being thrown curveballs, as Light said. You're critical thinking. Oh, I've read you're too critical thinking. No, but yeah, that week and a half, I felt really sick to my stomach. Got the call. I was excited. And the chief who called me, he could hear how happy I was. He's like, don't get too excited. As it turns out, that chief in the fire academy was a dick. Oh my God, he was a nightmare. Out of the academy, he's one of the nicest men I've ever met. And like, absolute pleasure to know. David, you would know him. He's the one who spoke at my graduation that we ran into at Firehouse Subs, which stressed me out. So, got the call. The guys that got the call for the class after me didn't get that call for like, I think it was a couple months, I was told. Like, my academy was already going when they finally got the call saying, hey, you made it, just not when you were thinking. So, like,